Hey everybody, what's going on? It's the Botch Guy here, and I just want to make sure everybody subscribes to DNC Digital.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy D from DNC Digital, back with another episode of DNC Radio. My guest today is the Botch Guy. For those that don't know, I've been following this guy for like the past 2-3 years, and I'm a huge wrestling fan, as many of you may know, judging by the people I interview. The Botch Guy covers all the funny parts about professional wrestling, all the comedy spots, and then he also likes to do opinions on the wrestling product. So I'm really excited to talk to this guy. He is a huge YouTuber on his way to 100,000 subscribers, which is what I need. So I need you guys to hit the like and subscribe down there at the bottom. Botch Guy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for putting me over. That was unbelievable. Whoa, man, so good.
Oh, man, it was something a long time coming, but I'm so glad we have the chance to sit down and talk and just talk wrestling and your YouTube career and how you got to this point. How you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Just woke up. I just realized the sun is hitting me so hard on this camera.
Nice.
But other than that, it's going great, man.
But that camera looks beautiful. You just got it, right?
Yeah, actually, I just picked it up the other day. Got rid of my old one, and it's nothing crazy. It's called I think the stream camera or something like that. So it's pretty nice, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome. So now staying on that subject, how much do you think about the technical aspect of making sure your YouTube videos are produced well, as opposed to when you started?
It's actually ironic because, what I do personally is everything's usually through my phone. So when I record first of all, like if you guys don't know, like what I try to do on my channel, first and foremost, I consider myself kind of like, those America's Funniest Home move videos, like
Right,
those
yeah.
back on TV. Like I like to do parodies and comedy and stuff. Like I got into YouTube just to make people smile, make people laugh, make them have a good day. If they're having a bad day, they see something kind of funny, whatever, a wrestler messes up or whatever. It's because I think of the amount of times I've messed up in my life. Like when I trip, my wife's cracking up, right? It's the same thing with like wrestling. I see something funny, I'll make some funny little comment. I've obviously transitioned now more of a reactions and then botches in the last few years. But the technical aspect of it is actually, I just use my camera, and because I have a half decent like iPhone, the camera on there is so good. It uploads everything in 1440p resolution, and I just have a nice tripod and I stare at myself or I stare at TV or whatever I did it, and it's a lot of transitional work there. So that's basically it. It's from the very beginning to now, and nothing's really changed. This is different because I'm trying to get into Twitch now, right, on my Positive Vibe 604 Twitch channel. So it's definitely not too difficult, but if you have good tech, man, like it does help for sure.
When you started your channel, I mean, you developed this character on YouTube where you center in on one part of professional wrestling that doesn't really get talked about at this platform as much, to the point that there's an actual channel dedicated to only botches. What made you to decide to do, like, I'm gonna do a channel on only the mistakes people make, the funny parts?
I'll tell you this, it was never even about the like mistakes people make. It's usually just like Matthew from Botchamania, the legend, the legend himself.
Yeah.
He's been doing like funny comedy videos for botches for so long. Like I don't think there's anybody better in the industry, and he's kind of grew and got a kind of a cult following out of it too. Like everybody loves him, right? And
hell yeah.
So when I started off YouTube, it was a different time for me. It was a couple years ago, different place in my head as well. And I was just cracking out videos. I just wanted to make people laugh. And I thought it was funny, some of the stuff that was happening, like when someone trips over like a quarter or a wire, sorry, like a ring thing, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of funny. I thought other people would laugh and have a good time out of it, right? It was never about like, the actual wrestlers like making fun of them or anything like that. It's just no different when you have blooper shows on like, TSN or like on ESPN or any of those sports networks, right? So when I started, that's all it really was. I didn't expect this was going to blow up. It's not like I went into it thinking, oh, I'm going to get, popular when it comes to this type of stuff, because originally I started doing mostly just like, it was just botches, right? And now over the last 2 years, I've transitioned my channel quite significantly. I still do them, but I usually do them in more of a did you catch that type thing,
Right.
and focus. Like, I try to be as positive as I can be. It's in my nature. Like I said, a couple years ago, I was in a worse place than I am now, and I said to myself, I want to be as positive as I could be moving forward. And I know I think you're going to ask me about community building and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, definitely. Let's go right back into that. When you started seeing your community build, and it was, the subscriber count, enlarge, what kind of relationship do you have with your community and your subscribers and the people that support you?
Unbelievable. I truly believe this, and it's not just YouTube talk. I know a lot of people like to say it, but I truly believe I have the most positive and respectful wrestling community on this planet, especially when it comes to YouTube. And the reason I believe that is because since even 2 years ago, year and a half ago, when I kind of started thinking about doing this, I said to myself, I want to be a positive person, even though my content, like, it's ironic, right? Because I'm the botch guy, and it's like
Right.
about like people, making like these little mistakes, the funny moments where people don't have the proper graphics, and you just immediately think, oh, this guy must be like a dick or something, right? And then you go on like my channel, and like everybody's all happy and respectful and kind, and I wanted to build that. Community building is so important for a new YouTuber and
Mhm.
even an established YouTuber. And I truly believe if you have a good foundation of positivity, as your channel gets more popular, it kind of spreads, it's infectious, right? And that's really important. So what I did personally when I started off, I really wanted it to be just a really positive environment for people, even in like an interesting space like this, like a parody space like this. And as you see, it looks like it went pretty well, I think.
No, hell yeah. I'm a proud member of the Botch Nation. And I love you, buddy. And I've watched your videos for years. I really mean it, because 2 residences ago, I remember watching your videos. And when did you see that the snowball started getting larger? When did you see the growth? What video was it, think, or was it a collective of videos?
I'll be honest. I don't know what happened. When I first started off in the first 6 months, I think people were intrigued about botches. I think botches were so popular in that first 6 months because there was a lot of like funny stuff that was happening with like the Bellas, and there's the funny stuff happening with like Lacey and some other of the male wrestlers as well, like Sin Cara, and like there's so many kind of like funny moments that happened. And it was never about like teasing them. It was just more about like kind of just having a good laugh, make people cheer people up. Wow. And I never saw like the YouTube, as you know, on YouTube, the algorithm is kind of crazy. One
Mhm.
day, like your video will do well, and the next day your video won't do well. It's all relative to where you are in the YouTube space, I guess. And at the first 6 months, man, YouTube decided, hey, this guy is, I guess, popular enough. We're gonna push him. And boy, did they ever. I think in the first 6 months alone, I got like 30,000 subscribers and a lot of viral videos. So I don't think it was one video specifically, but like YouTube's changed pretty significantly. The copyright guidelines have changed. Community guidelines have changed. Like I remember back in the day, like when you watch like stand-up comedy, for example, DNC, how they
Right.
swear a lot, right? Like they always drop F-bombs and other type of things. And I used to do that back in the day in my videos too. I was dropping F-bombs and all this stuff. Now I never swear, right? It's because it's changed, right?
Mhm.
And just like anything in life, you gotta evolve and kind of adjust your content to the kind of the landscape that's happening. It's kind of what I did over time.
That's awesome. Um, so let's talk about what brought us to the dance, is professional wrestling. That's the common denominator. Um, what was it? What was it for you? What gravitated you toward wrestling? Do you remember? Do you have a first memory? I always tell people I do not have a first memory of watching wrestling. For as long as I can actually remember. I've been watching professional wrestling.
You know, it's actually kind of wild. Personally, I have never remembered how I started, but I do remember moments of like just watching and just being captivated. Like for example, with Triple H and The Undertaker with Shawn Michaels as a referee in that cell, like that was just such a good match. Obviously, what got me back into wrestling, because I started wrestling, you know, as a kid, and then I grew out of it for whatever reason for like 9-10 years. I guess they're into Jack
No,
Swagger.
I think we all have a pocket of time where it kind of stopped.
I think it was the Jack Swagger era. And then I think it was the Jack Swagger era and the Miz era, I guess a little bit there too.
Right.
And then I for some reason I heard of this guy called CM Punk and the very famous shoot promo. And I remember going online, just reading, oh, this wrestler just, you know, destroyed the company. We think it's real. Like, I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? So I click on it. You know, next week I watch. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna tune into the show because this seems really cool. I don't know what's going on. Is this real or not? Right? It actually that way. And I watched it. I watched that feud with CM Punk, Cena, and Vince there, and oh my god,
that still stands as some of the best programming they've done. Best
story to I in my, like, I know Attitude Era further back had some amazing stuff. In my opinion, I'm gonna probably get hate for this. Is probably the second best ever storyline, like captivating storyline ever in the company. So I truly believe that. I think it got a lot of casual fans to convert and a lot of hardcore fans just going crazy because we never heard stuff like that, right? It was the kayfabe, right? So, and then they had that match, Money in the Bank, John Cena, CM Punk, whoever wins, you know, CM Punk won and took the title, ran away with it, and man, that crowd. That entrance by John Cena booed out of the building, and CM Punk with the biggest. I don't think we'll ever hear a crowd like that again. That was crazy. And that was it, man. That's it for me.
And here we are. We have, interestingly enough, we have Bobby Lashley as the WWE champion, and deservedly so, because that guy is on fire and he's always been a talented dude. But can you tell me about when Bobby Lashley was the most used man on earth?
You know what? I don't know. You know what's funny about that is I made that one video a while ago, and at the time, okay, I'm just trying to go back to that moment, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of funny. Like, I thought it was super funny. It's like it was a classic blooper type thing where like it wasn't poking fun at anybody. It was just kind of just funny seeing it, and for some reason that became a series for about, I would say, about a year or so, maybe just. It kind of got its own little following, and I think what happened was I laugh. When I laugh like hysterical, and it's kind of like a weird comedic laugh. And I didn't even do anything interesting. I just laughed, like was cracking jokes and laughing throughout the whole stuff, just laughing. And for some reason, man, people really loved it. Bobby Lashley's killing it right now. One of my favorites, man. I love Bobby, man. I think I'm so happy that he's worked his way up, man, and it's nice to see him have such a successful career. But man, the confused guy, I call it the confused era, like for a year. It was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. But again, I always want to mention this because it's true. Like whenever I do series or segments or even my videos, it's never to put down anybody. I would never do such a thing. If I ever at a point where I felt that way, I'll just quit. It's always kind of just doing it in a positive light, because I hear a lot of the comments once in a while. I get some guy come up to me and say, hey man, I suffered from, you know, this and that, and you know, I had just an awful day today, just the worst day today, and I come onto your video and I saw this video and it just made me laugh, and you know, my day was much better. And I'm like, you know, that's it, right? Like for me on YouTube, like that's what I go for. Like that's what's important to me. Other people maybe, you know, getting famous or, you know, getting money and stuff like that. For me, it's just having that moment with the community where I did something to make one person's day better, because it's infectious, man.
I just think you identify as a positive person, so anything that goes with that just makes your day as well. Like I remember I was working at this restaurant, And this older woman came in and she just looked tired. And then I remember, I'm like, it's going to be this much. And she looks in her purse and she's like, oh my God, I forgot my wallet in my car. I'll be right back. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, in my head, I'm like, she's walking slow. Whatever. I'll just pay for it. It was like $6. I was like, don't worry about it. I got it. She looked at me like, what do you mean? I was like, I got it. Don't worry. Have a seat. Your food will be out in a second. And the woman started crying. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? And then she told me, she's like, I've been having such a rough couple of weeks. That just made my, and that was at a small scale. That's just two
Yeah.
people, and I was like, I'm glad I was able to make your day. When you have it, when you have this platform and you're touching many lives, there are many more people that probably want to tell you the same thing that that guy told you. Um, how much responsibility do you feel knowing that you can make some money?
It's a very great question. First of all, it's a great question.
Thank you.
It's one of
What I do. That's what I do. I always work for those. That's a great question.
It's one of those things. I don't look at it as of like I want to do this all for every single person, because I don't believe I'm like a role model of per se. Like I know people sometimes come with me if they're like more serious problems, and I always tell people, man, to get professional help. Go to your friends, go to your family. I'm just a YouTuber. At the end of the day, I'm just the YouTuber, so I can only do so much. If there is a lot of responsibility, or I feel that way at times, but especially when I started off, I was overwhelmed. Like I remember having like a lot of different social media platforms, and it was just overwhelming for me. I couldn't do it. I focused then just on YouTube, and I worked my way up on that, because it was just a very overwhelming experience. And I think that's very common with a lot of YouTubers, or just maybe anybody that just gets kind of popular very quickly. So when we started over a year, I started knowing how to control it. Like even like negativity, like I'm a human. There's people who are going to be negative once in a blue moon. It happens, right? So like when someone comments, a troll or something comes in, I actually, what I do, like you probably noticed during my live streams, like instead of just straight up banning people, I usually just play along with them. Like, hey man, how's it going? Oh, you don't hate me? Oh, that's all. That's not so bad. It's okay.
Yeah, that's
Don't
cool.
worry about it. And what happened is I realized over the years of doing it, instead of just letting the negativity kind of get to me and get to other people, because it starts usually like a fire. Instead, just talk to the person, react to them, but give them like a positive spin. And you have no idea how many people, DNC, that were like full-blown trolls early on in my channel, and now are like some of the most productive like community members. And it's actually unbelievable seeing that transition over time. I don't like banning people. I do it very rarely. I think I have 3 people banned, mostly just racist comments or like sexist comments or stuff like that, which I have no tolerance for. I don't think that's a word, but butchered that.
We get it though. We get it.
You know what I mean? And that's just it, man. That's pretty much just it there.
Not bad, bro. That's now. We were talking about it yesterday. For the wrestling fans, we can all chime in. SmackDown is kind of collectively known as the better product, the better show. Now, does it come down, for those that don't know, Bruce Pritchard is in charge of both shows, and he only has Vince to answer to. I'm wanting to know how that double-edged sword works, where if you're in charge of both shows, but this show is better. You mentioned the amount of time that they're on TV, but does it also come down to the performers? Do you feel that if those performers went to Raw, that it might shift the balance a little bit?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a wrestler issue when it comes to, like, I'm sure, like, of course, a little bit. Like, if you put Roman Reigns on Raw, there's going to be a lot of people that are transition. Like, that's common sense, because he's the main guy in the company.
The viewers will transition, yes. But do you feel the product on Raw would be better?
I'll say this. I'll say this right now about SmackDown and Monday Night Raw. Like the 2-hour thing, like that's the obvious one. It does make a difference. But like, you think about it, when you have a 2-hour show and you have all these writers coming in writing for the show, and then you go to Raw, now it's a 3-hour show. Now you're adding more writers, right? Like they have more people having to work on that Monday Night Raw show, which gets more kind of confusing probably to them backstage, I'm sure. Like it's just common sense, right? The show's longer, you have to write longer, it takes longer to do everything, got to figure it all out. But at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, I feel like the WWE is big enough to have two well-written, solid shows. Doesn't matter if it's 2 hours or 3 hours. I think talent on the roster is very, very good. These wrestlers are unbelievable, talented people, and some of the most genuine, incredible human beings from what everything I've ever heard. And it's kind of funny when we're just talking about the previous segment about like the happiness. Like I actually had people come to me and like, why are you so positive all the time? Why are you so happy all the time?
Why not, man?
But I'm like, I'm not really. Like once in a blue moon, I do a rant video, right? I just did a rant video on Monday Night Raw. I did a rant video on I did a rant video on Shayna Baszler like getting kind of screwed over, right? Like I think there's a way that you could talk to people through a camera, and it's if you're talking directly to them, and you can send a message without being disrespectful, but still get across your point. And I think that's really like needed. And I think in the WWE, when you see guys like Roman Reigns, when they speak, like look how often they speak directly to the camera, to you, and they're cutting promos. And it's like it's so much, it feels so much more engaging. Where on Monday Night Raw, maybe they don't do that as much. And I feel like they really need to bring that personality out on a lot of these wrestlers. Ricochet, right? Like, man, like he needs to turn heel, like because of how.
Now, let me ask you, because now we're gonna stay on that point for a second.
Man.
When there's a face who might not be succeeding, or a heel that might be getting over as a heel, why is the answer always they need to turn?
In my opinion, if something is not working, doesn't matter if it's the storyline that they're given to them, or maybe the character or the gimmick, or maybe something doesn't seem to fit right. I personally don't think it's a bad idea to try to transition that character. We were actually talking the other day about Otis and how his character is completely changed from a fun-loving kind of joking guy to like this full-blown heel. My original reaction wasn't as positive a lot of people, because I thought it removed all the personality from him, and now he's just this big strong guy. We've had a million of them, but at the same time, pairing him up with obviously Alpha Academy with Chad Gable there, and seeing Chad kind of transition his character too, them together, it works, because now even though Otis doesn't have that like natural personality anymore, because it kind of got stolen from him a little bit, he kind of gave it to Chad now. And now Chad's showing more personality. It's working very well, and they're way more entertaining, and it's way better product. So when you turn people, it can work, and it's worth a shot. I'm telling you, if Ricochet has that opportunity to go from a face to a heel, I would love to see what he does with it. It might not work, but it doesn't hurt to try.
It's worth a shot.
Worth a shot, especially someone that talented.
On the subject of Otis, when people said they were, why shave the beard, why no more personality, I'm like, because we're going to associate all of that with that silly, goofy character. He's trying to be serious now. Like, remove all of that, no bullshit, because that personality and that silliness, it didn't get me any wins, it didn't get me any championships. So now I got to stay serious. That's what I took as that character arc when it came to Otis.
Smart man.
It's what I do. I've been watching wrestling for 30 years, man. It's one thing I'd like to say I have a doctorate in. Jesus Christ.
And if you guys are enjoying this interview, just in general, man, leave a like down low and subscribe to this man. He's a hardworking individual. He's a great person, not just on the camera, but off the camera. I've got to know him pretty well now, and truly, he's a great cat, man. And definitely support him.
I appreciate you, man. Those are kind words. I appreciate that.
You told me to say that, no?
Well, yeah, I'll cash app you the $20. Don't worry about it. It's coming.
Where's the super chat?
Where's the super chat? Definitely the donation. There was another question I wanted to ask. And what in an interview, I think it was Carl Anderson. I don't think it was an interview. I think he responded to a tweet because they were so mad at what they're doing with the Good Brothers. And when you go on Facebook forums or Twitter, it's always, oh, I hate what they're doing with this person. Like, for example, sidebar, I had to tell somebody because I hate what they're doing with Apollo Crews. It's so stupid. I'm like, hey, like, he's on TV. He's there every week. he got the title. I don't mind it. The guy's getting the human being, the man is getting an opportunity and he's excelling. Why hating what, man? He's getting his checks. And Carl Anderson responded to somebody on Twitter saying, I hate what they're doing with the Good Brothers. You know, they don't even use them correctly and blah, blah. And he's like, hey, I have a job to travel the world doing what I love to do. Maybe because I'm not on Raw every week, it doesn't mean that I'm not happy. You know, what is it to say to the fans that feel like they can book people better, or their opinions that they're not using somebody correctly, but the person might just be happy doing what they're doing?
That's the catch-22, right?
Yep.
It happened with R-Truth as well. Remember, a lot of people came up to him and said, "Hey, man, like you're a joke, you're a comedy gimmick, you thing." And then he responded by like, "Hey, man, look at this guy, look at this kid right here, look at him smile when he high fives me. Look at him smile when I do these funny things. Who's to say that I'm not making a difference, just by doing this type of stuff? I don't have to. You don't have to be a super serious character. It's no different like my channel or your interviews. If you do positive things and funny stuff, and you might not be targeting a specific audience. Like me, my audience is mostly like teenagers up to adults, right? But there's other people targeting other audience. It's a PG program, and he obviously, R-Truth, for example, targets a specific audience, maybe the younger audience. John Cena did for sure, right? And it's different. Like you have to go back to when you were a kid. Like go back to when you were watching these like larger than life figures. Like it's different now. We're, I guess, smarter, right? Like we're the marks now, right?
Yeah.
So it's different. Yeah, it's different nowadays, right? So we don't get it. And so what I say to those people on Twitter, like who can feel like they can book better, and I'm one of them sometimes. Like I don't go to pop off on like wrestlers on Twitter or anything. I just usually keep my comments to my live streams or myself or through my videos. But like, of course, like I feel like certain things can be booked better, but I think it's an absolute crime when people go to other people's social medias and harass people or make fun of people or treat people disrespectfully. And just because they don't like something that happened, like it happened with the Fiend, right? Like a lot of people were pissed about the Fiend, what happened. And I was pissed. I wanted to see more because we want him to succeed, right? We want him to do well. But I'm not going to go to his Twitter and start harassing the guy, right? Because that doesn't do anything. You're not making any progress. So I hate that type of stuff, man.
I think another example is Bobby Roode, and the guy's like world-class athlete, world champion material, but he could just be having the time of his life, just tagging with Dolph, like chilling, like getting his checks, employed with the WWE, and he's fine. I just people overstep boundaries when it comes to, and I know I get it that the fans are passionate, but I don't get it sometimes. And I put out a video about this. How do you feel about the person that just shits on the product, says terrible things about Vince or the decision makers, and I'm never gonna give them my money again? Boom, Monday night comes and they're sitting in front of the TV.
I'm gonna do a video on that probably.
Like, you're the equivalent of like the person that goes to the restaurant, like they always mess up my food. Like then don't come. Like then don't come. Just I try to take wrestling as just whatever you're gonna give me, man. I'm just gonna take. I may disagree with some stuff, but hey, like Apollo Crews, they changed his accent. Okay, well, they changed Booker T's accent and he became world champion. They switched things, and I'm like, it's gonna happen. Like I'm just gonna sit here and watch.
I will say this: every person has the right to their own opinion. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, as long as it's nothing absolutely insane. But they have the right to their own opinion. But just because you have a disagreement of a person or an opinion to a certain person or a event or a storyline or a match, it doesn't mean you're allowed to now, or I guess it does, but you shouldn't really go out and be really disrespectful to the person just because you disagree with it. In my personal opinion, you can have your own opinions and that's great, but you have to also understand that there are consequences to sharing some of those opinions, especially if they're kind of out of the field, and especially if you're putting down someone in that process, because you might not think it's a big deal. Oh, he's a big guy, he has 1 million followers, 1 million subscribers, but maybe you caught him on a bad day. Maybe you caught him on someone passed away. you caught him that, he had a car accident. Maybe you caught him on something that bad happened, and you were that trigger that put him down even more. And it's just no one deserves that. You know what I mean? And that's my 2 cents on it.
Do you feel like fans know too much now about the business to the point that we enjoy it?
Probably. I would say that's fair. Especially now it's no secret. Like everything, like Samoa Joe coming back, right? Like everybody on, like, I made a funny tweet about that on my Twitter there. I remember saying, like, oh, I can't wait to see like the 600 YouTube videos on Samoa Joe returning, and he's not even officially announced yet because it was just everywhere, right? And it's true, man. Like, it is that way, I would say, for sure.
With all these wrestlers getting released, and I understand that, sometimes there's a rotating door as far as a certain level of the programming, but is it fair to say that the WWE has just created such a monopoly that there are just too many people on the payroll to give, ample opportunity to everybody?
I don't like, maybe now because when the pandemic happened, there wasn't any house shows,
Right.
but like you can still get people in, and they have lots of opportunities to send some of these people to other developmental programs where developmental, like NXT, right? Like, it's not really developmental, right? It's the product's honestly better than Monday Night Raw for sure, and maybe almost even on par with SmackDown, right? And that on par, I would say, with AEW as well, right? So I would say, like, it's kind of wild, more than anything, but I don't know. Like, I feel like there's enough wrestler, enough talent. You could find a place for a majority of them, if not all of them. It's just I don't like storylines being booked like a week in advance. Or even day of. I like long-term storytelling.
Like the Usos with Roman.
Yeah, look at how rewarding it is when you see.
So good. It's so good.
Something like that. Like, it's much more like engaging.
Now that we're gonna have some crowds come back next month, I think Money in the Bank, SummerSlam. Do you think that this is the opportunity to be the catalyst for change? Because something that they've been pushing as a positive, thing, as a popular thing, a better word, popular. If they put it out in front of a crowd and the crowd rejects it, do you think they're gonna go like, oh man, they don't like this, maybe we should change this? Or somebody who's not pushed as much, they're gonna get a huge reaction when they come out, and they're like, oh look, they missed that person, we should probably put that person more on our programming.
That's wrestling.
Hell yeah.
That's wrestling. Fans are a big part of wrestling. The crowd is a big part of wrestling. Do you think Daniel Bryan was going to get that push to the main event of WrestleMania and win that championship without those fans getting behind him? There is no way. They changed their plans on the fly for Daniel Bryan because of the reaction. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's when it comes to crowds. For example, when Bray Wyatt came back, right, and there's screaming Husky Harris or whatever, right? Like sometimes it doesn't work out, but at the end of the day, majority of the time, having a crowd is so important to the fabric of wrestling. And I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I honestly think, truly believe that it's going to be the resurgence of wrestling, of the WWE, when the crowds return. I feel like this is a wave that's about to start, and they're starting it at SummerSlam this year from all the rumored reports.
Here's a good question, and I'm gonna preface it with saying good question because it's gonna be a thinker. Paul Heyman has said about people's love for wrestling that if you don't get it, you never will. You won't understand why we love this so much. So if somebody came up to you, Botch Guy, and they said, what is it about wrestling? Like, I can't understand it. I don't get it. What match would you show that person?
John Cena, CM Punk, Money in the Bank. That's it for me. That would be it for me. That match, that crowd, that investment, the how it started so slow, but it led up to a big moment, and seeing the fans embrace a character when he's leaving, that would be it for me. Definitely not the zombie match.
that was great. I tried.
One of my biggest regrets.
That's another one of those that
DNC.
was just like killed online. And I was like, oh, it's a business. They gotta cross promote. I don't know why they did that, but damn it, man.
Listen, one of my biggest regrets ever on my channel was not making a video on the zombie man. How did I not? The Botch Guy
Why did
himself,
you not?
Mr. Comedy. I didn't think it was gonna blow up as much as it was, and honestly, I
Bro, it
didn't
was
have
all
that.
over Twitter.
I didn't have that. I know a lot of people had that like super negative reaction to it, and then some people thought it was like okay. It was kind of in between. And if I don't usually have a strong opinion on one thing or another, I usually don't make a video on it. I don't care if it does or not. I just
Right.
like to do my own like style, and I don't care if the video does well, it does well. If it doesn't do well, it doesn't do well, right? But I had no real opinion. But then after a couple of days or a day or two thinking about it, I'm looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I just realized they just had zombies eat the Miz. And I should, like, in theory, I should have had a stronger opinion on it. And I'm like, I could have made such a funny video, man. I could have made such a funny video, and I didn't.
Can you
do
think
it.
of any event in wrestling before you started your channel? Not maybe not a botch, but let's just say any event in wrestling that you were like, man, my video on that would have been awesome.
Oh, put me on the spot here. I never covered the Titus Worldwide Slide because I didn't do like botch content, like parody comedy content back then. I didn't do any YouTube really. I wasn't even on the platform. Like I was, but I wasn't doing recording videos on it.
Right.
I can't imagine like me now, like having that big happen. Like I think I think I'll go viral, probably get like 500,000 views or something crazy because of how popular, like everybody typed that for so long, got a t-shirt out of it. My God. So I'll probably go with that.
Nice. I just want to keep it positive. Instead of saying what would you change about wrestling now, what is it about wrestling now that you love that still keeps you entertained?
My addiction. Say Roman Reigns. No. I don't think it's one thing. I grew up with wrestling, and then I kind of stopped and I got back into wrestling. For some reason, it still captivates me when it does captivate me. And I think I strive for those moments. SmackDown right now has been giving me it keeps reminding me weekly why I'm a wrestling fan. Roman Reigns right now reminds me why I'm a wrestling fan, because you can see the transition of his character and the storyline, and every week after week, it's captivating stuff. So for me personally, I think I just invested in wrestling for so long. I'm at the stage now, like I wait for those moments of that kind of make me go, I'm happy to be a wrestling fan. And that happened just the other, just the hype. I was so hyped for that SmackDown main event, man.
Whenever we're on your live streams or whenever you're on your videos, you're kind of working, you're making sure you're entertaining people and you're keeping people engaged, and there's that retention that you need to do. So if I can give you the floor to talk to all your supporters, and if there's anything you'd like to say to them now that we're just sitting here, a couple guys talking, shooting the shit, what would you say to all your people, all the people that support you throughout all these years?
I'm blessed. I think it's pretty obvious that I'm blessed to have this opportunity to do YouTube and get some revenue out of it. I'll say this: I've had respect, obviously, for my community pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic, it's been harder, much harder, for our family. And like my live streams and my videos, like the support I get, like the donations I get through my live streams, it's literally, like I said this before with you, behind the scenes, and I mentioned it sometimes on stream, like even though they're completely optional, right? You guys paid my rent, right? You guys paid for the roof literally over my head. And during that pandemic time where I lost my job, and I'm going to be going the next month or two, finally, right? You guys kept me up, right? And when you're talking about that specifically, it was just it's unbelievable the support I get. Not just financially, but like from the people that leave likes and comments and engage in the community building on it on all my social media platforms, but especially on YouTube. It's really humbling. I didn't think this was going to happen, to be honest, and I'm going to do it for as long as I feel like people enjoy watching my content, and that's just who I kind of am. And the day people don't want to enjoy watching my content, or I'm not entertaining enough, or I feel like I'm not providing anything of value, I'll probably stop. But right now it's been so positive. It's been growing. We're getting close to that 100K mark, which is like, I hit the 100K, I'm quitting. It's like thanks, I did it. I'm officially, I got to the point. Like it's that magic number, right? On YouTube, everybody wants it's 1,000, right? 10,000, and then you hit that 100K. Like those are the three big goals, right? And I usually don't think about it because it's still so far away, but at the side of my head, I'm like, it makes me think, man, this community has supported me for so long, and I don't know why. I'm a wrestling fan, just happen to do funny videos, comedy videos, positive videos, rant videos, and I'm just grateful.
That's awesome, man. Where can people find you on social media and YouTube and Twitch? Go ahead and shoot out your links.
The Botch Guy on YouTube, but it'll probably say the Bitch Guy when you it shows up on YouTube every time whenever you type it in. I'll probably fix the autocorrect there every time, seriously, no joke, even on Google. So then on Twitter, Botch_Guy, you can find me on there, and Positive Vibes 604 on my Twitch, and those are the social media platforms. And I just want to say thank you so much, DNC, man. I have a feeling there's going to be great things coming for you, and this has been fantastic, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. I was glad we were able to sit down and pretty much shoot shit about wrestling. I loved it. And you're a very positive guy, and you do have an impression on me when things happen, and maybe I'm having trouble with something in the YouTube world, and I think about it and I'm like, Botch Guy is such a, and then again, you always give me advice and you help me out with some stuff, so I always appreciate that. I consider you a friend, and I hope you feel the same way. This is D for DNC Digital. You can find me at DNC Digital on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. For those in the pandemic that have grown beards, all the guys, make sure you check out canyouhandlebar.com. Get yourself some beard balm, some beard oil, some mustache wax, and a cool beard brush. Those guys are awesome. 100% natural ingredients. Use my promo code DNC Digital for 15% off. The Botch Guy, D, everybody have a great night and take care of yourselves.
Bye, guys.